We're not doing like, the sustained silent reading days every other Friday or something like that. I think it would be a good idea to keep the book with you. Like for example, next week on Thursday, I got a letter from Birmingham Jail quiz. I'll do the same thing with you where you have about 20 minutes to take the quiz. If you finish, in 12 minutes, you got 8 minutes. You might, if you have the Awakening, you could probably get 2 chapters done in that amount of time with how short those chapters are. But you'd be able to get some reading done here and there and things like that. So certainly have the book with you. There's not any planned days where we go, okay, let's spend 25 minutes talking about your independent reading books, because Virginia could be asking stuff about Huck Finn, we could have Gatsby questions, you could be sitting there with a farewell to arms going, well, this isn't helpful for me. If you do have questions about things that happen in your book, feel free to ask. And I mean, with you folks, homeroom, that's a prime time example that you could certainly utilize that. But there's not the, all right, have your independent reading book today, or let's discuss it and all that kind of stuff. Independent reading is meant to be independent reading. The big goal is, from that writing aspect, and not that I complain about this, because it's one of my favorite parts of the class is when you read a book and we end up talking about it. But I want you to kind of start coming up with some of your own ideas, your own conclusion, your own significance to the meaning of the work as a whole kind of idea, as opposed to us always bouncing ideas off one another. For independent reading, I think that ends up being a pretty nice turning point for a lot of folks in the course, because you're working independently. I think you have to start to make some assertions without knowing if, hey, does everyone else think with the book? And the hope is you end up kind of building a little bit more confidence with it as we get into things again come December after Thanksgiving when we start reading One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Literary term quizzes are a good time to kind of bring up the quiz grade. Independent reading journals can be a good time, if necessary, to bring up the essay grade. All right. You have 2 journals, and at the top of the page, you see this number 1 and 2 thing that we have right here. The first journal, I think I have the due date. They're both Fridays. I think I have the due date listed for you as being November the 8th. That is the short week that you have after Halloween, where you have that 4-day weekend. I think it's the 4th and the 5th that you have off, or something like that. So that might be a time that you get a lot of independent reading done and might start working on some journals. For both journals, so the one for the 8th and the one for the 15th, the expectation is that you're approximately 50% of the way through the book. So you are not done with it by November the 8th. All right. But you would have 50% of the way through. If you're further, that's fine. You don't have to stop halfway. 50% of the way through for the first one, and by the following week, you're still at the same point. Now, you might read some and add some things to it if you want, but for both of them, it's 50%. It's not that you're halfway by the 8th and then you're completely done with it by the 15th. You're going to do 3 writing assignments total for it. The first 2 are for the first half. The last one's going to be an overall essay. That's going to be due after Thanksgiving. After Thanksgiving break, that one's going to cover the whole entire book. So the first 2 things that you're going to submit are going to be roughly halfway. Now, you have different page numbers depending on what books that you had. So it's not that if your book is 330 pages, don't stop specifically. That'd be page 165, if that's like midway through a chapter. Get through a chapter or something like that. If page 61 is the end of a chapter and that's almost halfway through page 124, I'm okay with something like that. So be, in that 45 to like 55%-ish place of the book. These 2 journals are worth 25 points. They are not getting graded on an AP writing scale. So it's not that 1 point for thesis, 4 points for evidence and commentary. I'm not taking that rubric that you got back with your TWA out of 50 points and dividing it in half, and that's how you get 25. It's practice for you doing rhetorical analysis and DRQ. So long as you meet the requirements, you're probably going to get a 25 out of 25 or a 24 out of 25, something along those lines. What the requirements are, I mentioned it's the first half of the book. They're going to be at least 500 words in length. That's roughly 2 pages, double space at Times New Roman. You can write more than 500 words, but the minimum is I want you to have at least 500 words. Chances are, if it's 500 words, how many body paragraphs are you talking? I doubt you'll get, like maybe 4 paragraphs total. like an intro, conclusion, 2 body paragraphs. Like that would be okay for this. You have to have at least 2 body paragraphs. Don't go with like one big, 1 body paragraph. But it's expected that you're going to have a works cited page for each one, and that you are going to have 4 cited examples. Of those 4, 2 are going to be direct quotations. So you could go cited example, quote example in 1 paragraph, cited example, quote example in another paragraph if you want. If you want all 4 to be direct quotations, that's fine. But this is not your East of Eden essay. It's probably more like a TWA kind of one. It's giving you practice with DRQ. So number 1, write an essay which uses specific evidence to defend, challenge, or qualify an assertion made by the text author, which could be a direct or indirect one, or something that the characters do within the text. So, and you might end up being completely wrong. Sarah's reading 1984. Halfway through the book, she goes, I think this is what Orwell's overall argument is, and this is why he's right. And then, oh, that's not his argument because something happens in the second half of the book. So what do you think is the author's purpose? Do you agree or disagree with that purpose, with that argument? If you're not sure what the author's argument is, which is legitimate, if you're reading The Stranger, you might not know halfway through the book. You could take something that a character does. So Hannah's main character is going to be Merceau. She could defend, refute, qualify something that Merceau specifically does in the book, and you could go, that's why that was a good idea, that's why that was a bad idea. But you're just taking something that the character does and explaining why you would agree or disagree, or the author's overall purpose. That's your first journal. Second one is rhetorical analysis. You're just going to take at least 2 strategies, and you're going to do the same thing. You're doing literary term quizzes coming up. So by the time the 15th rolls around, you have a few of those under your belt. This is a good time to try something different. You're afraid of going outside of like diction, imagery, details, syntax, or whatever. You want to write about an allegory, but you're not sure how to do it. Or you want to write about paradox, but you're not 100% how to do it. This would be a time to kind of experiment with it. If Sarah goes with paradox and kind of messes up, I'll tell her you messed up. That would hurt you on an essay, but for the journal, you're probably okay. Mr. Dane? Yeah. Happy Friday. Okay, I'll send them down. Yep. Ethan, you got mail.
Yeah.
So you're going to pick a couple rhetorical devices, pull some examples from the book, from that first half, and explain how you think they're being utilized for author's purpose and all that stuff. These are journals. They're not on that AP scale. Don't worry about that whole sophistication kind of concept yet, because we're not there yet, being halfway through the book. But it's just giving you practice, figuring out author's purpose, figuring out some rhetorical devices, seeing what you think is going on within, again, that first half of the book. The goal would be, I want to get that first journal back to you before you submit the second one, so that if you do have to correct anything, you'd be able to know about it. So there's a chance that that second journal, I might push back a couple of days, maybe it's like the following Monday, just to give me some more time if need be, if I need a little bit more time to break them. But I'm not going to make that call yet. Like an example that'll, like the same page number for like both journals? Yeah, that'd be okay. So no assignment specifically that you have for Monday. Well, we want to start reading Letter from Birmingham Jail. I think you'll find it much easier and more agreeable than civil disobedience. Your sign-out sheets, just leave them on your desk. I'll come by, pick them up. Shay, don't take it. Or that tombstone will become a reality. You get a flavor shot.
A flavor shot?
Yeah.
From the school cafeteria? No, no one does.